So a very eventful session today in the stock market. You can see here, Chair Powell came on and they cut rates. The Fed cut rates 25 basis points, and then the balance sheet runoff is planned to end on December 1st. So that's some big news as well. And then over here, you can see as well, Mirren wanted a 50 basis point cut, was the only one that did want that. Everybody else seemed like they wanted this 25 basis point cut. So we did have that. And then after hours got even more interesting with the huge earnings session that we had, both the Google earnings, we also had Microsoft earnings, and also had Meta earnings here. And you can see both Meta and Microsoft dropped despite Google climbing very high. I believe it's up like 7% by the end of the time that I was looking at it. So we can go over to the chart really quick and I can show you how some of these are performing. SPY right now is flat after hours, just based on that earnings that we've seen so far. And if we go down, for example, to Microsoft over here, we can see how it's performing. And so far, yes, we did have a pretty substantial drop, but it's starting to recover a bit. And we do have the conference calls approaching a little bit later on, I believe in a couple minutes from now. So that, of course, will shake up things, especially with what I'm sure they'll mention, their CapEx, their spending for AI related projects, which is a very hot topic right now in the market. Crazy amount of money going into that. But here's Microsoft. If we go over to Google, see if it's been able to hold up with its gains, and it looks like it has. It's up 6.2% right now after hours, so very nice to see that for Google Bulls. And then lastly over here for Meta, you can see it's actually having a very difficult time. It's down 8.6% after hours, so pretty steep downside move. And if we go back to X over here, we can see earlier today there was actually a very large Meta call sweep that hit the tape. DGen Whale bought $4 million worth of out-the-money calls, so they are in a lot of pain right now. And of course, with these earnings bets, these are very degenerate trade setups. That's why it's highlighted here as DGen. There's a much less likelihood they do end up hitting compared to something that just happens when there's no note event approaching like earnings, just because there's a lot going on. And I believe that Meta beat across the board as well. So it's possible that maybe it was an insider that thought it would go up, but the market had different intentions. And then over here, speaking of insiders, we can see NVDA is officially the first company to hit 5 trillion in market cap. And somebody added a 6.3 million worth of calls the day prior. So this was only yesterday and it went up a ton. You can see here just on the chart, a lot of upside, and they ended up making $7.3 million in only a day on that, actually a little bit less than 24 hours, 120% on that. So really an insane trade. If we go over to the flow, because there's been a lot of premium there lately, we can actually see here there was a record $603 million worth of premium of bullish flow on NVIDIA today. And the reason I say it's a record, because for a non-earnings day for NVIDIA, I'm pretty sure this is the highest amount of premium we have ever seen hit the tape for bullish premium, that is, on this ticker for non-earnings day. And even for earnings day, this would be very high regardless. So super interesting to see that. It completely, like, look at this over here, 38 million for Tesla. That's nothing. That is peanuts in comparison to what NVIDIA had today. So absolutely insane that this amount of premium hit the tape at all-time highs as well for bullish flow. It's crazy to see that. And also if we go to the flow from earlier today, just the tape in general, you can see there actually was quite a bit of short-dated bullish flow at that. 2.5 million in premium over here for the 210 call, 1.6 million for that 210 call again. These were highlighted as highly unusual in blue, also 2 million over here. And then as you can see, some other ones from earlier in the session, 1.7 million in premium for a call, 1.5 million in premium, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of bullish prints, even this over here in the money, 3.1 million in premium for this, yet again, 1031 expiration. So a ton of green across the board, guys, from today on NVIDIA. I could just scroll for days. This is only from today. So I'm not even scrolling for days plural. In this case, I'm scrolling for a single day. And this is all of the premium that we saw across the board. Just absolutely insane, just unprecedented amounts of bullish flow on this name. Despite, look at this over here, 16.4 million in premium for a deep in the money, a 3/20/26 expiration call. So absolutely incredible what we've been seeing here. And if we go to the chart, this is a name I've been talking about now for a couple weeks in these videos. You guys know, if you've been watching these videos, I've been bullish since we were down here in this loading range, and I was looking for continuation after we had our confirmation. Remember in the Sunday video from this Friday close above 1D290 that we'd see more upside to 200, and that is exactly what we saw. And not only that, it actually surpassed 200 and went all the way up to highs of 212 earlier today. So incredible move. Great trade setup here. Very clean execution. Again, talking about this for the last 2 or so weeks in these videos. So definitely make sure to at least subscribe to the channel so you can have access to some of these trade setups. Very nice complement of both flow and technicals, which is always what we're looking for. So going back to the flow really quick, if you want to see real-time flow like this on NVDA, like we've been seeing, as well as some of those super unusual prints, use the discount code that is in the bottom of your screen, say 15, and you can have 15% off after your 7-day free trial is up. So you already get 7 days for free. Check it out. See if you like Cheddar Flow. Otherwise, you can cancel within those 7 days. Now, I do want to talk about one other main thing here, some of the dark pool premium that we've been seeing lately. We had 1.6 billion in premium earlier today, and actually I'd characterize this as over 2 billion just because this is a couple cents away. You could see 686.81 compared to 686.84, and this has 800 million in premium compared to 1.6 billion in premium. So nothing too insane from today, but if we go back to previous days, for example, Monday through Wednesday of this week, we can see once that loads that we actually did have an over 4 billion in premium a day. So over here, 3.1 billion in premium, 1 billion, and then 800 million in premium over here. So nice to see that there was actually almost 5 billion in total premium for signature dark pool prints. And you guys know I'm interested in anything over 3 billion. So this definitely counts. This will certainly be a key level going forward, 686.84. So mark that in your charts. Will certainly act as a support level once it is retested, but also could act as a key distribution zone just because we are at all-time highs now. So if bears are able to get it back under, then watch out below. You could see some more downside. But scrolling through over here, not that much else from earlier this week, just really the meat of it being up here between these 3 prints on those days. So wanted to give you that quick update as well as a gamma exposure update. This one's been interesting recently, mainly because there is a significant call wall that has formed at 1.4 billion in premium for this 690 strike. So right now spot price is at 687 roughly, and this is 690. So it could act as a nice magnet going into the rest of the week. And this is for all expirations. By the way, if we go to, for example, the 31, October 31st expiration, we can kind of see where that sizing is for this week, and still at that 690 level. The majority of it is for Friday, at least expiring on Friday at that 690. So potential for it to pin around that level going into end of week. So definitely continue to watch this because it does change very quickly. Could definitely change by tomorrow's open based on the feedback we've seen from earnings. There's going to be a lot of differing exposure just because of 3 large earnings. Plus tomorrow we have some big earnings as well. So I wanted to mention that. And then also speaking of tomorrow's earnings, the last thing I'll mention is flow going into that. We have Amazon. So from today, it wasn't really that insane in terms of flow. So nothing that is super directionally speaking, that is. If we go back and look at historical flow from this week, we can also look at that. And we can see here, at least for this week so far, it's been 78.2% bullish flow to 21.8% bearish flow between both of these. So looking through it really briefly here, nothing that really stands out, to be honest. And even then, with what I showed you on Meta, for example, they can certainly be wrong going into earnings. There's a lot of variables. Even though Meta beat across the board, the stock still dropped just based on its positioning. So a lot of factors come into play when you are trading through earnings. This is a bit interesting, to be honest, over here, these 11:07 expiration for these call sweeps. We always look for continuous orders, and this definitely fits that continuous print. You can see one after the other here. All of these were opening orders because volume is over the existing open interest. So great to see that. And obviously the majority of them seem to be above the ask, and we can validate that here as well. Yeah, majority of them were above the ask. Very nice volume over open interest, like I mentioned before. So going to be watching prints like these because these are very clearly short dated bets. And if they still are holding it based on open interest, then that's going to be good insight going into earnings, or at least thereafter. Because even if it drops because of the event, sometimes it can prop up afterwards because of that excessive bullish positioning going into it. Kind of like what we saw with Tesla last week, a ton of bullish positioning going into earnings. It dropped after earnings, then picked up and then broke out big time right after. So those guys got paid. So nice to see that, at least for Tesla. And we'll see what happens here for Apple and Amazon. But crazy times in the markets right now, especially when you see something like 603 million worth of bullish premium on NVIDIA on a day that it cracked its all-time high. So you're looking at history right now in the markets. We'll continue to update you as best as possible whenever we see anything new. Regardless, as always, appreciate you guys watching this video. I'll see you next time.